Hi, this is Paul Slackus, Good News Broadcast, speaking to Peter Asher. Hi, Peter.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, I'm good. I'm very excited to have a moment to share with you and with our audience. Peter is a British guitarist, singer, manager. I'm reading actually from Wikipedia, okay?
Oh.
Because you've got a ton, and they say it nicely, I believe. And record producer. Came to prominence in the 60s, member of the pop music vocal duo Peter and Gordon, before going on to a successful career as a manager and record producer, a la extraordinaire. That's my part there, Peter.
Okay, that's good.
I'm very impressed with your background. The more I saw after knowing just your singing and your songwriting and sometimes the producing side of things, people doesn't get into the front of the camera, right?
Right. Well, there's kind of two different sides to all of that. Yes, exactly.
But you've actually, carried on both sides of the show and the business.
Yes.
And so, which is very fascinating, and I'm just going to up front give our audience just in addition to just winning a silver telly for the Buddy Holly Listen to Me series on PBS, right, the Ultimate Buddy Party, and in addition to doing something with Steve Martin and Edie Brickell recently, and appearing where we met at the Beatles Fest, right?
Yes.
Peter has worked with so many unbelievable, wonderful, talented musicians, going way back to helping James Taylor launch his career and Sweet Baby James. And the list is, and we'll put this all in the print because it's just so many wonderful Bonnie Raitt and David Sanborns and Neil Diamonds and Carole Kings and Kenny Loggins. I got to throw it out there because you're just unbelievable. I can't.
Well, it's been going on a long time. I've been doing this 50 years. I mean, it's 50 years since I was first in the recording studio, January 21st, 1964. So yes, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of different things, and obviously I count my blessings and that I'm still working and still doing it. I'm still alive, for that matter.
I'll second that emotion. So in the process of all of this, and happy doing what you're doing, I could see on the stage, right? Are you still happy?
Yes.
Yes.
I wouldn't do it if I didn't want to.
And the desire, I guess, just a little bit of your upbringing that got you into the world of music to begin with. Your dad was a doctor, I think, and
yes, my mother was a classical musician. She was an oboe player and oboe professor at the Royal Academy of Music. So I grew up in a very musical background, but largely classical music. But my father was a talented amateur pianist and singer himself, and so there was sort of a lot of music around the house. We all sang as kids.
And what was your first instrument?
I never played anything well. I took oboe lessons briefly. I played the double bass for a while. That's the instrument I probably took most seriously for a year or two. But I was very bad about practicing properly, and to this day I read music very badly and very slowly, and I'm still very amateur when it comes to any serious musicianship. I play enough guitar to get by, but I'm still at heart a three-chord folky rather than being able to play any instrument particularly well, which is probably why I became a record producer, which is the perfect solution, because you get to tell other musicians much better than oneself what to play or make suggestions, and they follow them. It's very exciting.
Yeah, but let me ask you, I appreciate what you're saying. I'm a musician too, and I feel the same as well. I went into being in the TV production business for 40-plus years, so that I didn't have the chops for the musical part. However, I didn't have number one hits, and like you did, and really, build a reputation as a singer, writer,
yes,
musician.
No, I'm a decent singer. I'm a good harmony singer, and I have some musical ideas that people seem to like. I'm just saying I was never particularly skilled as a musician per se. I'm not denying that there's anything I can do. There's some things I think I do reasonably well, but playing an instrument is not one of them.
All righty.
I play enough to get by to get my ideas across
and when you did appear. Did you ever write any songs? I mean, I'm sorry,
yes,
I apologize. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, we write some. Gordon and I wrote some back in the day, but we never succeeded in writing a hit for ourselves. I've ended up kind of co-writing some things with things on production projects, and most recently, for example, I was working on the music for Madagascar 3 with Hans Zimmer, and Dave Stewart and I co-wrote a song for Madagascar 3, the love theme for the movie that ended up being the only original song in the film. And that one I did actually get to sing on the soundtrack as well. So that's one of my rare appearances as a lead singer. But I do write, but I usually end up helping other people with a song. Although in the case of this Madagascar song, it was an idea I started and Dave and I finished. And he's a pleasure to work with, of course, and an incredibly talented musician himself.
Well, being a grandpa and having seen Madagascar 3 numerous times.
Oh, you have? Well, when Alex the lion falls in love with Gia the lioness on the trapeze, that song, Love Always Comes as a Surprise, is me.
Yes, that's your song. Oh, my God.
Yep.
I love you more, Peter.
And it's me singing it.
God, I love you more. I can. You have no idea. Isn't it something how these cartoons or animation and so on and so forth, since you worked on that project, and that alone is enough to say in a human being's life that I worked on that movie like that. Isn't it amazing?
They're remarkably good. I confess, until I was working on it, I'd never seen any of the Madagascar ones, not having a kid the right age, and they're really smart movies. I had no idea. I was, kind of went, oh, it's a kid's movie. But once you get into it, there's an incredible amount of thought and work that goes into those films, and they're quite intelligent.
Yes, quite. They're very sophisticated.
Yeah.
You can learn all the emotions of life through these characters, and once again, the brilliance of the writers, and then the talent that are pulling it off, and the voices. They really step that up big time. Tell me about the TV then areas of your show business part. I'm a former PBS Channel 13 guy, and so.
Well, I've done a few. You mean like the Buddy Holly thing? That was something I was invited to do. This company Songmasters was putting together a Buddy Holly album. They wanted to do a tribute album to Buddy Holly, so I began by producing that and assembled a number of favorite artists and friends to sing Buddy Holly songs, Jackson Browne and Stevie Nicks and Zooey Deschanel, a lot of different and cool people doing Buddy Holly songs. And then following that, they wanted to do a PBS special to go with it. And we had some of the same artists, like Stevie Nicks was able to do both, but some, of course, weren't available, so we used some other people, other great singers like Raul Malo and I got to host the show with Chris Isaak, who did a great track for us as well, and that was fun. I produced the music for it. I was music supervisor and producer, but I also got to co-host it, which was great. I enjoyed doing that. And then most recently, we've just done a TV special with Steve Martin and Edie Brickell based on the success of the album that I did with them. Then that's showing, I think, in a week or so, March 3rd or 4th or something, on PBS stations across
when was
America.
it, and what was the defining, I'm going backwards a little bit again, Peter, sorry. But what was the defining moment that took you out of them more so, unless you continued on, like when you went to Sony, or when you would have left the actual and been more of a corporate kind of a guy?
Well, there's so many layers to that. I mean, I stopped being an artist when I found James Taylor, and decided to bet my career on his and become his manager and producer. And
right.
But I'd signed him to Apple Records, where I was head of A&R at the time. But my move to America was purely James-based. I thought his career would be based here, and I believed strongly that he would be successful. I didn't know how successful, but so that was that move. And then, I read that Peter Asher Management flourished for about 30 years, I guess, managing James and Linda Ronstadt and Carole King and Joni Mitchell and Randy Newman and a lot of other people. And then eventually, yes, Tommy Mottola, who was head of Sony at the time, persuaded me to come and work for Sony. So I was vice president of Sony for about 10 years, I think, in New York. And that was exciting, learning record companies from the inside. And, of course, finding out that all the things we as managers and artists had believed about record companies was all true. But by then I was on the other side of the desk.
All right. Yeah. I think they said 68 you went to Apple Records, Sony 95. Somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. Luckily, you've got that in front of you because I don't know the dates at all. I'm terrible at dates.
That Wikipedia is good stuff. You can carry it around with you.
Yeah.
Roxy Theater? What is that? Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I was one of the 4 owners of we built the Roxy in L.A. Myself and David Geffen and Elliot Roberts and Elma Valentine and maybe there's Lou Adler, I guess. Yeah, Lou Adler. However many that was, 5. What was that? And yeah, we were co-owners of the Roxy. We founded it.
The historic. Once again. And yeah, you did a couple of these comedy things. What's you like the comedy, Robin Williams? That's the real Jon Stewart, the guy that's like on TV.
I'm not sure what you're reading. Sorry.
I see something about Jon Stewart.
No, I produced an album with Jon Stewart, John, the singer-songwriter. He was one of the Kingston Trio, great writer, wrote a giant hit for the Monkees.
Okay.
Very cool guy. Sadly, no longer with us. But I produced a record with him many years ago. I have no connection with Jon Stewart without the H, who's hilarious, but other than watching him on TV, I have no connection with him. I did produce a Robin Williams live album because Robin is one of my best friends and a brilliant guy, and asked me to help him with the album, so I did. And we won a Grammy for that. It's not a Grammy I ever expected to have. It was Best Comedy Album of the Year, but luckily I have one.
Yeah. You must have a good sense of humor. Robin is such a funny guy.
He is, yes.
Very, very, very talented. So with all of this wonderfulness, and you're continuing on and doing more and more and more, and highly respected in the industry. Where do you want to? What are some of the things you'd like to still do, or that you're doing now that you see continuing on? Well,
I do. I mean, I still like being in the studio, probably the best of everything. And doing this Steve Martin and Eddie Brickell album was very exciting, and the fact that it's been well received and won a Grammy, and we turned it into a TV show, and now we're turning it into a stage musical. I mean, generally based on some of the songs on the album. The reason I was in New York up till this morning was that we're workshopping it as a stage musical, which is going to open in San Diego in the fall, with an eye on, if God willing, if it all goes well, being on Broadway a year later or something. And that's been a thrill because that's a new world for me. I like, when things take me in new directions, like working with Hans Zimmer on movies, which before I'd only been involved with peripherally. I'd done songs for movies, but hadn't worked so much on scores. I produced the Superman soundtrack, Man of Steel, with Hans, and learned a lot doing that. And now, as I say, I'm lurching into the world of stage musicals. And then I just finished a project with Elton John. It's the 40th anniversary of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and they're re-releasing the original album in a fancy package with all kinds of bonuses. And one of the bonuses is 8 current huge acts, very successful current pop acts, redoing some of the songs from that album. And Elton asked me to produce that, so I had a fantastic time working with some great current acts whom I love, like Ed Sheeran and Miguel and Hunter Hayes and the band Perry and people like that. I got to produce doing Elton John songs, so that was a thrill. That's kind of the most recent one I finished and delivered. That comes out March 25th.
What are some of the important characteristics you would pass along to people in the music business, whether they are in the entertainment side or they're on the business side? What are some of the characteristics that you think have one either helped you or you would suggest for other people to have in their makeup of their being?
That's hard to say. I mean, in what role? It depends what they're aiming to do, I suppose. I mean, I think all the usual virtues, I suppose. It's hard to say. Hard work, being straightforward, being reasonably honest, and because I do find it is to my advantage that, now in the 6th decade of being in this industry, at least people do kind of know that, generally speaking, I can be trusted and stuff. That's helpful. I think, not being a liar or a crook, has served me reasonably well. And I've jumped at every opportunity that's come my way. I think if there's anything that you look at my whole career that it has in common over the various sections of it, as it were, is that, when an opportunity presented itself, whether it was to give up managing and go to Sony or, glom onto James Taylor and move to America, with no money and no prospects other than a belief in James, so far that's worked for me, so I would say be bold, take chances,
That's a lot of good stuff. That's a lot of good stuff, no doubt about it. Also, obviously, you're a very intelligent man. What is it? You had like a bunch of doctorates, or you were a Mensa guy, and
I'm a member of Mensa, yes. So I wouldn't want to take the test again now. Luckily, they don't make you retake it every decade. But yeah, but no, I don't have any doctorates. But yeah, back then, my IQ came out as being high, but God knows where it would be today.
Well, creepers. That's really it's a wonderful kind of thing, and you're a dad too, and you're a lot of beautiful things. So, any other new things that we should be sharing with the community?
That's about it for now. The Elton thing's coming out in a minute. The PBS special is coming out in a minute. And then moving forward with this musical. So those are the things on the immediate horizon.
And you have a website also, and you do.
Well, yeah. PeterAsherMusic.com is the one that has, because I do the show every now and then, when it fits in, and that's where details of any upcoming shows are and stuff. Yes.
All right, a lot of beautiful, beautiful things, Peter. Thank you very much for sharing. I usually ask one question at the end here, and then what's good news for you? Because we have a good news broadcast. We're just supporting those that are doing good and being all those kinds of virtues like you spoke about. We're happy to share that reality of the way we all should be living as brothers and sisters. What's good news for you?
Oh, I think good news is family and friends and people being okay, because there is unavoidable bad news when people get ill, and particularly at my age, when we lose friends. I spend an unfortunate amount of my time going to memorial services and stuff, so God knows there's enough bad news, even though it's part of the way the world works. But so one realizes increasingly that the friends and family are what count.
All right. Okay, Peter, thank you so much. It's a big honor for me, and we're going to put some music and photos in there, and, it's very, very special, very special. Thank you very much for sharing good news with us, Peter.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.